Guys, I'm so fucking sore. Oh, I played Ring Fit yesterday morning, and I'm still fucking sore. But that will not stop me from making fucking content, dude. Today, I intended to have a game of the year list for 2020. The problem is that there's like a twist to the way I set up the list. There's a little bit of a joke to it that I don't want to reveal yet. But basically, for it to work, I need one more game at least, right, to fit on the list. And I played the Samurai Jack game that came out last year, sort of hoping it might be that game. And like, it was good. I liked it, but it wasn't quite on that level, you know, that I kind of wanted. So I said, fuck it, rather than do like a half-assed list, I'll give it like one more month. Because I could immediately think of two more games that I, A, really just wanted to play, and two, and B, yeah, and B, that I could realistically finish in February. So end of February, you'll get my list. For now, I thought, sort of an equally fitting thing would maybe to do a 2021 preview, just games I'm looking forward to, and talk about that. My buddy Björn did like the same thing yesterday on his Patreon. It's very upsetting. So I'm just gonna blatantly rip him off now. This is like sort of in release order, and I did go through like the Wikipedia list. Like at first I just listed games that I remembered, kind of in the order that they would come out, and then I went through the Wikipedia list, so it's gonna be a little bit jumbled, and I only really jotted down games that I actually care about. So if it's not on the list, I either don't care about it, that's the most likely scenario, or it's like it just completely slipped my mind somehow. And like, yeah, maybe if you think there's a game that I should care about, or that you were surprised to not see here, maybe let me know in the comments. That'd be cool. Or if you just want to get my thoughts on any random game, I'd love to, yeah, have that discussion. Oh my god, who's fucking texting me? I put at least one game on there that I'm not going to play, but I just wanted to talk about it because it like annoys me. Well, maybe I'll just start with that because it's a little bit relevant. Balan fucking Wonderworld, Dylan Wonder Planet. Wait, my audio looks weird again. Let me check that. I just peaked a little bit. You know, it sounds relatively fine, but I turned down the gain a little bit more. I don't know, just to be safe. So it might be a little bit quiet now. Actually, let me check that. Maybe I should do this before I hit record. Maybe that would be a good idea. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. So Dylan Wonder Planet, Balan Wonderworld. Fuck this game. Like, so the demo came out, and I think that's like kind of like it predicted. It's when people kind of realized that the game was just really bad. But also like, for me, it was just weird because it's one of those games. The reason that it annoys me so much, the reason I have such a hate boner for it right now, is that it's like one of those games that are announced with no compelling gameplay concept whatsoever. Like, nobody who, A, especially like makes games, but also B, even like people who play games, you can't hear this idea, oh, there's 80 different costumes with like different abilities and that's the game, right? You can't hear this idea and think it's a good idea. Just logistically, think about how wildly stupid it is to make like unique assets for 80 fucking different costumes or whatever, and then each one of them is just a single button. Like, the whole game, the sort of the conceit of it is that your character just, you move the character with an analog stick, and then they have one button. Every button just does the same thing, right? So obviously by default it's like a jump, right? Obviously that does not have to be bad, right? I mean, games have been made with just one analog stick that are great, or that have a lot of depth, right? Like, the problem is that I just don't see a scenario where that, like, splitting it up in this way actually results in interesting gameplay, right? Because you can give players different costumes for different situations, right? But then, like, even just when I played the demo, right, it was very clear, like, okay, the different abilities just have no depth whatsoever, right? It's just, like, the first one you get is, like, a wolf that has also a jump with, like, a little bit of a hitbox, right? And it's like, okay, it's a jump with hitbox. That's like, you could have just made a normal jump in any fucking other game where you just jump on people, right? I don't know. And it's like, it's annoying because the game is sold solely on the vibe, the aesthetic, and like who's making it, right? Yuji Naka and Naoto Oshima, who were both primarily responsible for Sonic, right? On the Mega Drive. And Yuji Naka was like responsible for the series like until Sonic 06, after which he left Sega. Like, no one can fucking watch the first trailer and then say, yeah, this exact idea is why I'm looking forward to it. It's just the aesthetic. That's like the vibe is like the whole reason, the only reason why people were interested in this game, and that's so irrationally annoying to me. And the demo came out, and it's a fucking mess. Like, the way your character controls feels like goddamn ass, but also just the way this game is like set up and made. I hate to say this, but it's a children's game. You know, it's like, it's just a really bland, empty world with like sort of collectible coins sort of littered around in this very haphazard, not really organized, designed way, you know? Very much felt like Ukulele to me. Where it's just, they made just a random world, they gave the character some abilities, and then, you know, just did not put any fucking thought or design into it. Like, again, like, this 80 costume thing, like, how much better could you be using those resources, yeah? How much better could you be using those art resources and, even design resources, right? Fuck, what the fuck am I saying? Oh yeah, and see, when you actually play it, the game doesn't even look good. Obviously it has, like, technical issues, right? Like, to nobody's surprise, but also, even just the way the aesthetic is pulled off in-game is such a fucking hodgepodge. None of the models look good. The color design is really bad. There's, like, it's, like, really bloomy and, like, kind of, like, desaturated in a very weird way. I'm not really sure how I would describe it, but wait, let me look at screenshots again. Dylan Wonder Planet. Balam bullshit. Like, ew, just the way the sky looks is so fucking gross. Like, the green of the grass makes me want to puke. Oh god. And, like, just all the character designs are, like, especially the player characters, like, they're so fucking unappealing looking. Just super fucking rounded and, like, with the big eyes, it's like, ugh, it's... No, dude, no. I think a lot of, like, when I see, like, Oshima's art, the concept art looks great. And, like, obviously the cutscenes, like, Square Enix fucking visual works, obviously that's litty. But yeah, fucking Dylan. Dylan Wonder ass. No, thank you. Fuck this game. Glad I started with that. Let's talk about a way better 3D platformer. Mario 3D World, obviously not like entirely a new game. But like 2 things about it. I mean, 3 things. First thing is, I think I personally underrated this game when it was on the Wii U. I liked it on the Wii U, but I was like, yeah, it's not what I wanted. Yeah, it's not Mario 64. And like now that sort of the initial hype of Odyssey has like worn off, I could say, yeah, actually 3D World was probably better. And I would probably appreciate it even more now. Like, I did 100% of the game, right? I did, like, everything in the game, originally on Wii U. I think. I did, like, Champions Road, the final level, right? But I think there's some stuff you don't have to do, maybe, to get 100%, whatever. I don't know. Like, there's some stuff I think you don't have to do to get to that final level. Yeah, I feel like now that I've realized that Odyssey was actually kind of mid, it's gonna be easier to see this game like on its own terms. But then also, they're addressing some of the things that I like thought were kind of lame about it. Like actively, the movement is extremely fucking sped up. It's so much faster than the original. I wonder if it's still like kind of like the original was not completely 8-way movement, but definitely locked you into 8 directions like pretty aggressively. And I wonder like how the dash button is tweaked. Like I heard some conflicting reports on that. Like I just need to try it. Like I do think like the dash button, it's like not the worst thing in the world, but like it does make the game a little bit more rigid to play, you know? Like just the way, the fact that you can't reach your top speed a little bit more organically, you know? Like I like an Odyssey or 64 that you gain speed by like going down slopes, for example, or like jumping in a certain way, not just by holding down one button. But like it's, again, if they, yeah, I hope they make some tweaks to it, but like if they don't, like it's not the end of the world. But then I even noticed stuff like just the way your momentum is retained is way different in this version. Like there was one clip where Mario long jumps on a Goomba, and then he actually retains the long jump pose. In the original, if you long jump on top of an enemy, you would go back to the regular jump pose. But that's not the case anymore here. And that looks way fucking smoother and like just more satisfying to play. Just from that perspective, I'm super excited to play it again, like with all those tweaks. But then obviously, they're also adding this new thing called Bowser's Fury, and the more I'm seeing about it, the fucking more amazing it looks to me. Like somehow, like I think Bowser's Fury, sorry, right now is looking like that perfect middle ground between 64 and Odyssey. Like I think Odyssey suffers from the fact that so many of the shines are just fucking meaningless, you know, and are just hidden very haphazardly, and like on a second playthrough it's just not fucking interesting at all to get those shines. Or moons, whatever. Did I say shines? I don't know. Yeah, like a lot of those moons are not actually hidden behind platforming challenges, and then even when the game has more set challenges, they feel so linear, A, and so self-contained, B, but also C, the movement is such a flowchart, you know? Like, I like that the movement is open-ended and creative and stuff, but like, it is, once you get it, it's so easy to like, solve every single challenge in the exact same way. And I think in Mario 64, a lot of that was just way more organic, and like, I think Sunshine kind of suffers from that as well, right? Like, just like they present challenges that they want you to solve in like kind of a very specific way, right? And like they're kind of in their own sphere, even though it's part of like kind of a big world. It somehow feels still isolated. Whereas Mario 64, it feels like very organic. You're just flowing from one thing to the next. And that's kind of what Bowser's Fury looks like to me, where it is a huge fucking open world, but then in that open world you have like different obstacle courses, and then your movement is like flexible enough that you don't have to like solve every single one of those obstacle courses in like the exact same way. And like they do look pretty vertical as well. I think, yeah, that was one thing as well about Mario 64, that it's very much built on the idea of like going up in like spiral kind of formations. And I saw a lot of that in Bowser's Fury. And then of course they also, yeah, and like before I move on to like the main gimmick of this game, like it's also like you can collect the shines out of order, and the game just keeps kind of going after that. So like it kind of keeps what was good about 64, but also doesn't like throw you out of the level like that game did, which might be cool. Like there's like mods that you can play now for 64 that where the game won't throw you out of the level, and it feels weird. It doesn't feel right. But yeah, like just Bowser's Fury being built around that, kind of like Odyssey, but then making each of those shines actually substantial, unlike Odyssey. I think that's hopefully the key, right? But then obviously they also have this mechanic where Bowser just goes fucking crazy. In the Japanese version, he's called God... Wait, was it God Slayer Bowser? Oh my god. Like, that is so fucking raw. And then in the Western version, I think it's just Fury Bowser, because he's lame, right? But then he will like rain down on the island and like fucking create new hazards, and just everything will just go super crazy. And obviously it's dangerous, but you can also use it to your advantage at certain points. That sounds so fucking cool, especially because the timing is not fixed, apparently. It's not just every 10 minutes. It's like a little bit random. And there was like rumors that this game is like a roguelike, that it's like different every time you play it or something. The more I look at it, the more that seems to be not really true. But it does look pretty replayable still. Like, I wonder how open the game is, and like how you travel between the islands exactly, and just the fact that you get on the little, I think Leslie is her name, you get on the little big whale monster thing, and then you can travel between the islands. That looks so fucking cool. Again, I think, like, yeah, obviously one of the biggest things sort of missing from Odyssey for me was the hub, right? And like being able to play levels out of order, and just that we have a new take on that, I think is cool, right? Like, it's a huge world with a system of islands that you organically travel between. It's like it really does feel like it's taking ideas from 64 a step further, you know, rather than hinging so much on Odyssey. And like, I guess like another good point of comparison might be Jak and Daxter, right? I always loved the way Jak and Daxter, that was one big world, and then you can organically travel between all the areas. Obviously, it was not as open-ended as 64, but I still think it was very good for what it was. Yeah, I'm fucking like, just like with every new trailer, I was like, fuck, this is like genuinely one of my most sort of looked forward to games right now. Really fucking excited to play it. Definitely gonna be a stream game as well. I'm not sure if I'm gonna play it by myself first and then stream it, or if I'm just gonna stream my first playthrough of Bowser's Fury. I think the latter, like just streaming my first playthrough, might be fun. Because it's supposed to be not very long either. Yeah. Next game on the list, also on the Switch. Woo, Switch having a bit of a year, dude. Monster Hunter Rise. I already said a bunch of my thoughts like when I streamed it and on Twitter and stuff. Like, this game caught me off guard a little bit because it really does feel like it feels more like a 3DS Monster Hunter than like World, you know, than another take on World. It has ideas and sort of systems and improvements from World, obviously, but like the whole design and the vibe and the aesthetic of it feels a lot more like 3DS-esque. And I think for a lot of people that would be cool to have like simpler maps again, with like way less shit going on inside those maps, right? The arenas that you fight in are a lot simpler than World. Personally, as someone who was a big fan of those elements of World, I do think it's yeah, they really simplified a lot of stuff, right? Or streamline maybe is a better word. Like, you don't really have to track the monster at all anymore. You just you get on your little dog and head there instantly. The element of searching for the monster is not really going to be present in this game, and I guess that's fine, right? Like, I can see the logic behind it. To me, like, kind of the anticipation and the search was part of the experience of Monster Hunter always. Like, I feel like if the game is just gonna give me an arrow to tell me where to go immediately, why not just boot me straight to the monster, you know? Why even have the monster run away? Well, I mean, obviously I'm like, that's very hyperbolic what I'm saying right now. Like, obviously I think the monster sort of running away and like being able to bump into other monsters on the way, that still adds a lot. That's still a cool element. But, yeah. The more I played it, though, the more it really grew on me. And I think it's weird, like, they made a lot of cool changes to some of the weapons, but I feel like a lot of it isn't, like, A, it's pretty selective to the weapon, and then B, I feel like the wire bug, obviously you see really cool clips on Twitter of like people doing insane shit with like traversal that I really dig, but like in combat, the wire, like, see, it's cool in traversal because at any point you can just hold A to like suspend yourself in the air, and that will let you regain your stamina. And then while you're expending stamina, you get your wire bugs back, right? You can run up walls with the stamina, and then that's how your wire bugs are gonna cool down again. And then by the time you run out of stamina, you're gonna have another wire bug that you can use. And that allows for very flexible traversal. Like, even though at the same time it makes you think, like, if it's so easy to circumvent all this shit, right? Like, once, again, maybe kind of like Mario Odyssey, once you kind of get it, it's like, okay, why even have those restrictions in the first place? Like, why even drain my stamina outside of battle? Why even drain the wire bugs outside of battle? I guess to have the mechanical consistency. If it weren't consistent, sort of between battles and traversal would feel weird. It's like, it's just a minor point, right? Like, I get the logic why they do it this way, but like, it's not a perfect system. I think, though, even in combat, like, I will say, okay, so the wire bugs, they work on this cooldown system. And like, when it's like about cooldowns, I'm always really iffy about that, because I hate when the game turns into a schedule, right? I hate when, like, the cooldowns dictating what you need to do more than the actual fight sort of suggesting what you should do, right? I think that's really poor design. I'd say Monster Hunter Rise mostly avoids this problem, though. Because just throwing out the wire bugs is not that helpful in most instances. Like, obviously, it's Monster Hunter, right? So it's very easy to whiff. It's you definitely need to carefully set up attacks and prepare for attacks to make sure that you get the most out of it. And the same is still true with the wirebugs. I think that the reason the wirebugs are on a cooldown is not to make you use them all the time. It's more that they didn't want to introduce like another sort of resource system. They just wanted to find like the most, the least disruptive way of implementing them, right? And like without making them overpowered. I think it makes sense, right? The way it is right now. Like I had, obviously because it was on a cooldown, I had this natural instinct. Okay, I should just throw them out, right? But like that often would not get me anywhere. They're not so powerful, even that it's that worth throwing them out all the time. You know, you often have just better moves with your regular weapons. It's just the thing that enhances your toolkit a little bit. I think that's cool. But yeah, it's what is true is that not every weapon benefits from the wirebugs equally, right? And I guess, I mean, that's kind of the story with Monster Hunter always, that they focus their attention on different weapons with every entry, right? Not every weapon gets like an equal number of upgrades. Definitely the MVP right now is the fucking hunting horn. The hunting horn is ridiculous, and like I would go as far as to say, like, as someone who has a little bit of experience with Monster Hunter, right, like, who's played most of the entries, and, like, followed this series over its evolution, like, I didn't put, like, 100 hours into every game, but, like, I've been with the series for a while. Hunting Horn on Rise might be the most overpowered weapon in the whole series. It's, like, it's more overpowered than, like, Switch Axe, aerial style in Generations, you know, where you could just fucking spam the same jump over and over again. It feels more overpowered than that. Obviously, you still kind of have to get how to use it, right? Like, I didn't understand that the Magnificent Trio would just give me all the buffs immediately, for example. Or that I would get the buffs as soon as I play 2 notes in a row. But, like, even, like, having to play 2 notes in a row, that's not necessary, because you can just do 3 different attacks and then do the Magnificent Trio. And that's so fucking fun. Even though it's relatively simple in terms of the inputs. It feels very organic, it feels very stylish. I think it's, the weapon is also a good showcase of what you can do with the wirebug, right? Like, because you can close the gap to monsters very easily. You can even freeze them in place for a little bit. That's stuff that feels like it makes a lot of sense. But then, yeah, I feel like there's gonna be just a lot of weapons that are gonna be kind of lame with the wirebugs, and just generally, it's not this like super all-encompassing element like I kind of expected. And I don't know. Yeah, that's I guess what I'm wondering is, like, is the wirebug as cool as all the shit that was like exclusive to World? Personally, right now my feeling is kind of no. But still, I like the light bowgun as well. That's also another weapon where the case for the wirebug is very obvious. Where you can, like, just do crazy aerial maneuvers like you really couldn't do before. I do actually wonder, like, how was the light bowgun, for example, in Generations with aerial style? That'd be kind of cool to, like, check out. I was never into the ranged weapons that much, but, like, I really like the light bowgun in Rise, even though it seems not super powerful. I don't know. I know the best weapon in World was the heavy bowgun. Like the best speedrunning weapon, anyway. But yeah. Also, I think the wyvern riding is kind of weird. Because often you will be fighting one monster, right? And then you can ride it at a certain point, and then you can use it to fight other monsters, right? But, like, those other monsters are not your target, you know? Like, just killing another, or like attacking another monster with the one you were supposed to be fighting, it doesn't really make that much sense unless it sets up that monster to be ridden also, and then you can use that monster to like attack the original monster again. That is kind of cool when it happens, but like it's very situational, and like it's very simplistic as well. You don't really have to set it up very carefully. It takes a lot less strategy and planning, I'd say, than like the Clutch Claw in World, where you really like you need to see those opportunities when they're available, which is not always so easy, right? Like it's a little bit subtle with the monster sort of salivating and or flinching. You need to respond to those moments quickly when they appear. The game doesn't signpost them so hard with like, again, in Rise you get like a big HUD prompt like, oh, you can fucking ride this monster now, and you have like a million years to do it. In World you have to watch the monster carefully, and then you have to have enough ammo, right, to be able to pull off, and then you also have to find sort of the nearest wall to slam it into. I thought that system was just a lot better and like a lot more satisfying. Even though like in a trailer or something, of course, riding the monster looks way more flashy and cool. But yeah, in practice it's kind of lame. So yeah, like you do really feel like it's a different team making this game, and like the whole design philosophy is a little bit different. And personally, I feel like just a lot of elements feel a little bit unrefined and a little bit like not so perfectly thought out, I guess. Even just like the way they handle the controls is weird. I think this is like the most convoluted the Monster Hunter controls have been in a while. Like I appreciate a World for really like I think World still has some weirdness and like stuff that feels like kind of not very intuitive. I think Monster Hunter has always been, I said this on Twitter already, but like Monster Hunter has always been a series that is very bad about intuitive controls. Where a lot of just the button layouts and the combinations of buttons that you need to press don't really make logical sense. It's just kind of how the game works, right? And obviously, when you're with the series, when you're like play a lot of games, you kind of accept that and you don't really question it. But like, I guess like, you know, I'm a bit of a game designer, you know, and like now I'm like, you know, it's very hard to introduce people to those games because of like just the huge barrier to entry that they present with the controls. And like a lot of that shit is just unnecessarily convoluted. I think the thing that really bugged me the most is that the controls are not consistent between Blade Masters and Gunners for the same actions. So specifically the wire bug is like, it's on a completely different button that usually does a different thing when you're like, yeah, the wire bug, basically when you're playing as a ranged character, the wire bug, when you unsheath your weapon, it moves from its normal button, which is L2, to R1, which makes absolutely no fucking sense. It does not feel intuitive at all, and you can't. The weirdest thing is that you can't sprint to sheath your weapon. Sorry, even if you have sprint set to L3, for example, it just doesn't work. And just generally moving between the two playstyles is very confusing, and I just wish there was an option. Like, this would have been easily possible to like have the wire bug just always on like the L1 button, maybe, for example, and then always just have sprint on L3, right? To have a control layout like that. And I think even just the fact that Monster Hunter has like 3 different ways to use items. I mean, even in World that was still the case, right? That you had the item wheel on top of the item bar. I think Rise kind of is exacerbating the issue right now, because when you play the demo, obviously you can't customize any of that shit. Maybe you can, but I just didn't look at it because I was like, yeah, it's not worth it, right? But that's why you notice way more that like some items are on the item on the radio menu, some items are on the bar, and it's like really just super confusing. And that's why when I try to introduce people to the game, I try to not over explain it. I'm like, yeah, just press this button to like heal yourself, don't worry about it. Because it makes no intuitive sense, right? I think that the series could just really use with like some rethinking and retooling, and like I like that world, for example, gives you so many options to customize. But I think there should be an option to just get rid of the item wheel, the item bar, for example, to just have the wheel. I think the wheel is just objectively better in most instances. Or to maybe just have the item bar if you want that. You always kind of have to have both at the same time. It's just kind of weird. There's one more thing I wanted to say. Okay, I remembered. The HUD, all the menu shit in Rise is very bad. Compared to World. Like World, I mean, see, a lot of the UI layout is the exact same. It's just the polish in the UI is completely gone. World had a lot of like really nice, smooth transitions between menus. The way menus popped up was like they would fade in a little bit. It's, like it wasn't slow. It was still just as responsive as having it pop up instantly. It just looked nice and it felt nice and like it felt very cohesive. In Rise, everything like feels so just really ugly and cheap. Even just like moving the cursor in the item wheel, it's a lot less bouncy, a lot less animated, and like the responsiveness between the two is the same, right? Like Worlds did not lose any responsiveness for making its HUD and UI look nice and feel nice. So I don't know what the fuck happened with Rise. Maybe it's like they're saving RAM on the Switch, you know? Like, I mean, even those animations take up resources, right? I don't fucking know. It's definitely very weird, and like I think it's what made the game feel very cheap to me. Like when I first played it, I was like, what the fuck is this? Because I really expected, oh, it's just World on the Switch. But no, it's really more like it's a 3DS game that like was upscaled a little. Like it's not a scaled down World, it's a scaled up Generations or something, you know. And that's fine, but like definitely I was not expecting it. And also I think the game doesn't look very good. Like I think technically it's solid. There's not much you can complain about. I think the frame rate is fine. The resolution looks clean enough. I really think art style wise, I think the game, like, a lot of the armor is very ugly. The first area that you're in the demo is like very bloomy, very gray. It's just, like the reflections look really cool, and obviously the monsters look amazing. But yeah, I don't know. I really did not like the way it looked artistically. And again, like it's just so confusing to me when I see people shit on like World's art style for being so like extremely detailed, right? Like World is way more colorful and way more sort of vibrant in its colors than Rise. Like I don't understand. Like who was that fucking first guy that said, "Oh, World like does not have color"? That was never fucking true. That was never true. It's like it's always been a very colorful game. It wasn't like so crazy saturated like the 3DS games, but it was colorful, you know? It was not gray-brown. There's not a single stage in World that's gray-brown. Especially when you played with all the crazy HDR, like it looks so fucking insane. Rise looks way more gray than World. I'm sorry. It's just stupid. But yeah. I'm like, the more I thought about it, the more I played the demo, like the more excited I got to play it. Been playing Iceborne as well, so I definitely want to try to finish that up before Rise drops. But yeah. Been recording for 40 minutes and we've talked about 3 games. Maybe I'll need to go a little bit quicker. I guess, like, yeah, with the games I've discussed so far, like, I've played them before, so, like, I've played, yeah, like, all 3 games that are games that I have played, right? To some extent, in some form. So maybe that's why I rambled so much, but yeah. Let's move on to Guilty Gear Strive. I guess, like, yeah, that's a good one because I don't have that much to say about it. I think what intrigues me with this game is it has rollback netcode, right? Rollback netcode, very important. If you can't fucking find matches, if you can't actually play with people, what is the point, right? Obviously. And I think finally having an ArcSys game that's gonna be very popular, but also has good netcode. I think that's the perfect sweet spot. Hopefully, I hope that's the one I finally stick with. I mean, the one I played, like, Persona 4 Arena a good amount, and like some of the Blaze Blues. But I could not sort of find my footing in Guilty Gear Xrd. I could not find my footing in Fighters. I'm hoping Strive is the one. On top of the fact that it's obviously, you know, aiming at a wider audience with, like, its mechanics. I couldn't, like, I mean, I know Gatling, for example, is gone. I know, like, corner pressure is way less punishing. Generally, you do a lot of damage. Matches last a little bit, don't last as long, right? So, because you do so much damage, it's, like, easier to, turn a match around even without, like, crazy combos, right? I understand that, like, fans are super fucking nervous about it. I think that's totally fair. It's totally understandable. If the game comes out and it's, like, to those players it's trash, I respect that. But it does sound like a more accessible game for, like, someone like me who has tried it, who kind of understands fighting games a tiny bit, but just finds Guilty Gear very daunting and very complex. Yeah. And obviously the game fucking looks insane. I think all the character designs, like, I like the character designs and just the design sense of the game way more than Xrd. I think Xrd was a little bit, like Saul, for example, he looks a little bit, like, bulky and, like, not as cool as he does now in this game. Even Kai, like, with the short hair, looks so fucking hot. I'm probably gonna play Giovanna, though, because I'm basic. Like, Giovanna, Saul are the ones that I'd like to play the most, probably, yeah. Fucking excited as fuck for that, for sure. Like, I'm excited to have a, like, fighting game again. I haven't played Melee in a while because my PC's been weird, right? My laptop. I'm gonna get it back into Melee once I get my MacBook. But yeah, it's gonna be nice to have Melee and then another fighting game. I think that'd be cool. I haven't been playing Third Strike as much as I should be as well. Yeah, maybe I need to check that out again. Okay, let's move on to Resident Evil 8. From the start, I was very much looking forward to this game because Resident Evil 7 surprised me with how much I liked it a lot. And honestly, I think it's cool. Like, I had conflicting feeling on first person and third person, all this, right? Like, obviously I played the remake, 2 and 3 remakes. And my initial thought was, you know, third person is better. Because, like, oh, they can, like, the enemies feel a lot more challenging, you know, because they, like in first person, obviously your perspective is so limited that you can't really give the enemies complex movement patterns. You can't make them so fast and stuff because it's too hard to avoid them, right? You can, like, run in one direction and then look the other way like you can with third person. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, huh, actually, that just makes the remakes kind of still a more neutered action Resident Evil, you know? Like, Remake 2 is not, or even Remake 3, obviously they're not as good action games as Resident Evil 4, right? And as horror games, like, I don't know, I don't think, yeah, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, huh, actually, I liked the tension that I got from not being able to look around in Resident Evil 7, you know? I liked how much more impactful a lot of the encounters felt, and I feel like the first person just suited the pace of sort of, like, yeah, when we're talking fixed camera Resident Evil, it's like those kinds of games. I thought first person, once I sort of accepted it and got used to it, I felt that that fit the style of those games way better than third person. Like with Remake 2 and Remake 3, I think I mean, Remake 2 is great and Remake 3 is like, it is what it is. I think I need to sort out my thoughts on this. I don't really have a strong thesis on the issue yet. I need to think about this more. Also, yeah, I need to play Remake 2 and I need to play Resident Evil 7 again, like, to give you my definitive thoughts. But, like, right now I feel like, just, like, I had a way more constant feeling of tension and, like, just claustrophobia in 7 that I felt makes way more sense for the slower paced kind of experience. Whereas in Remake 2, I have so much time to avoid the zombies, and, like, I feel like I can keep my distance very easily. And then the way sometimes they snap the zombies to you, like, make the zombies grab you and stuff, and bite you, feels lame, right? Like, I feel like in some ways they have to cheat a little bit more in Remake 2, for example, to make it challenging. Whereas even, like, in Resident Evil 4, it was obviously third person, but it was still a little bit limited, right? You couldn't really, obviously you can look to your side and a little bit behind you, but still pretty limited. And, like just the fucking Wolverine fights in Resident Evil 4 are so fucking tense because you can't look behind you very easily, and because your movement is a little bit restrictive. I just think Remake 2, for example, doesn't really find the perfect balance, in my opinion. And, like, I think it was the right choice for this kind of remake, right? Like, either that or fixed camera, right? Because obviously you like, the characters are so iconic. You want to see Leon, you want to see Claire, you want, like, even just the feeling of being grabbed by a zombie, I think would not really come across, right? If it were first person or something, right? I think third person does make, I understand the choice behind it, but I'm glad that they're, because of all those reasons that I said, I'm glad that they're still pursuing first person for the main series. So that's one thing about it, and then the other thing is just how heavily it's referencing Resident Evil 4, and I think that's really cool. Like, they haven't really done a game like Resident Evil 5, right? It's the exact same style as 4. It's like sort of a similar kind of gameplay engine. But, like, even in terms of, like, the setting, like, oh, okay, I'm entering this, like, hostile sort of rural territory, where all the locals want to kill me. Just the vibe is very similar between 4 and 5, but, like, they haven't done anything like that since 5. So capturing that vibe again with, like, similar mechanics, with, like, the upgrade system, with disarming enemies, sounds very cool. I like that the style of enemies is something completely new for the series, right? Like, with these like, lichen creatures and the vampire ladies and all that shit, right? I think the game just has found really, like, an aesthetic that feels unique to the series, but also feels like it calls back spiritually to 4 a lot. like, yeah, I mean, the castle in 4 is really cool, but it's not the most memed part of the game, right? Obviously, the part that everybody remembers the most is like the start of the start with the village. I mean, it's called Resident Evil Village, right? But like, it seems to focus a lot on like the castle and like the estate. I don't know. Like, I'm really curious to see sort of what locales you go to and like how expansive the game is. It's a very exciting game, I guess. I guess that's a good way to put it. So yeah, I'm into that. Looking forward to it. I will say, I do think some of the gunplay looked a little bit unpolished. Just like the way enemies react a little bit was like not the best. It was kind of weird as well in RE2. Honestly, I don't mind the enemies in RE7. I think, like, the way they respond to shots feels pretty accurate. It feels like I would kind of expect it to feel. Whereas, like, with the zombies in RE2, they just soak up bullets. Like just like I felt like I could shoot off parts of the enemies in 7 a lot more easily and stuff. You know, like, they would respawn a lot more. Maybe my memories are wrong, but, like, that's what it felt like. Yeah, I'm gonna go pee. The next game I would like to talk about is Deathloop by Arcane Studios. Arcane Lyon, to be specific. Is that... They have one office in France and one in Austin, Texas, I think. But I forget which is which. I think the one in France was Dishonored. I still have not played Dishonored 2. I really need to get around to that because I always hear great things about it and it looks cool. The thing about Deathloop specifically, I mean, I love Arcane. I think they're really cool. I like their games. I like their whole style. I like that they're so focused on systemic gameplay. It's like that's become one of my favorite things in games, right? Lately. But with Deathloop in particular, I like that they're taking that into a more action-heavy direction, because I think there's like sparks of like that in their games so far, right? Like that Dishonored has, like, it is satisfying to just kill a bunch of guys with rats, right? It is like the shotgun and Prey feels pretty good. And just the hit effects and stuff. The games were never so focused on combat, but I feel like it could be really cool if they focus on it more. So now you play as an assassin. It's very much about action, and even in the first trailer they showed all these flashy moves where you could slide on the ground and fucking parkour around, and I think it looks cool. But then the even more exciting thing about this game is that it's one huge interconnected world, apparently, from what I understand. And like after Prey, I have no reason to believe that that's not true. Obviously Prey had like load times and stuff. It would be cool if it were completely seamless. Like, it's supposed to be an island, right? So, yeah, I would love for it to be like just one seamless world. And the idea is that you have different targets, like, you're a hitman and you have different assassination targets on the whole island. And you can go for any individual one of those in any order that you like. And they all have their own schedule. And the schedule, like, it has elements of a roguelike. So, the schedules of all the different characters on the island are somewhat random. There's certain things that stay consistent, right? There's certain patterns and themes to what they do. But there's a little bit of randomness and a little bit of chaos, right? So the goal of the game is to get all the targets in one perfect run, right? But obviously, you're not really going to get there on your first attempt. You're going to die a lot and try again and again and again. And obviously, your character, the conceit of it is that he retains his memories with every attempt. And obviously, that reflects back on the player, who obviously retains what happened and can formulate plans based on that. And that sounds so fucking cool to me. And I think Yeah, you have like a limited amount of time as well to like do all that shit. Well, I don't know exactly how it's gonna work yet. I'm not sure if death is sort of the main factor that like the main limiting factor, or if it's also time, right? Kind of like Majora's Mask. The game, did I say Majora's Mask already? Like the game really has that insane Majora's Mask vibe. It feels like FPS systemic Majora's Mask, and that's super fucking cool to me. Again, with how they emphasized like the character schedules, all that stuff, and yeah, just making that non-linear and systemic. It's just such a fucking genius idea. And on top of that, I like the fact that they realized, the repetition could get stale. We need one element that's like unpredictable, right? And that's why they introduced the second player, right? There's this other assassin character that tries to take you down. That can be controlled by another player. I'm not sure if what happens if you don't subject yourself to the online. Maybe the game is forced online or something. Like, how does it work? How do I choose to play as the other assassin? Like, how we're not exactly sure how that's gonna play out yet. But maybe in my game I'm always the same character, right? See, the way that they presented it is that you play as this guy, right? He's on the island, he's stuck there, and then when it's midnight, the time loop sort of activates and resets back to the start. And there's like this party going on, right? Like everyone on the island is partying, and you're just trying to get off the island. And you, like I said, you play as this dude, and then there's this lady that's trying to kill you with a sniper rifle. That's how they showed it in the trailer. But maybe the way it works is that when you play the game, you're always the guy, but then you appear as the woman in other players' games. Maybe it's like that. Because I would imagine that it's a hard sell to like have a separate mode where it's like, yeah, you're the assassin and you need to just kill other players, right? Just have a separate mode for that. I'm not really sure. Like, I wouldn't want to play that mode, you know? I wouldn't be that interested in like killing other players. I'm really curious how it's going to be implemented, but like I like the fact that they saw this sort of weakness in their design, and then that's how they address it. I think that's a really cool direction. Yeah, definitely one of my most hyped games. Just the concept is fucking amazing. In that same vein, also Bethesda, also a first-person game, Ghostwire Tokyo. I like the setting and like the vibe of this game a lot, but we still don't really know enough. We still don't even really know what this game is. We don't know the structure. We don't like they described it as PSI karate, kind of like you have sort of psychic abilities, but you also do like kung fu and karate moves and shit. Sounds neat, and like just the setting, like it's like neon tinged fucking horror Tokyo, I think is very cool. But there's not enough to go on really, and just all the development shakeups with, well, I mean, one big shakeup with Ikumi Nakamura leaving the studio with no reason given, and I don't know, that's really weird and really concerning, just the way it happened, especially after they pushed her so hard, right? They made her such a big deal in the presentation, right? That is odd, and that is, yeah, like I said, cause for concern. It seems like Mikami is way more hands-on with the game now than was previously hinted at. He seemed more like, oh, okay, I'm taking a back seat, I'm giving her like the spotlight, and now he had to kind of take over a little bit. He's not the director of this game, but like he was in like a lot of the press material. I don't know what the fuck is going on. And also, obviously, Evil Within 2 was fucking terrible. So, I don't know. Like, I think it's, I think gamers, I hope this doesn't sound like a call out, right? But like I think a lot of gamers have like a very flawed idea of like what a director does and what they do and how much influence they actually have. And I think even like if it's not directed by the same guy as Evil Within 2, that still doesn't mean that that is like the only limiting factor or like the only potential problem, right? Like obviously the director sort of, again, ideally they decide the general direction of the project, but like it was still sort of individual people on the team who had to implement the gunplay and like the enemy reactions and the enemy AI and all this shit, right? And the scenario design, the encounter design. If all that shit just sucks, like it did in Evil Within 2, like I feel like that's more, I don't know. It could be really either way. Like right. Maybe you have a director like Mikami that's extremely hands-on and has a huge say on every single part and like makes sure that everything is like fucking perfect. But then it could also be like, even if you have a good director, it could, or like you could have a mediocre director, but like just the rest of the team is so good that, you know, the polish still kind of comes through. I don't know, it's complicated. Just like again, having made a couple games, the logistics of making games were so complicated and in ways that people don't really think about, I feel. Just like, I want to talk about that next month. I wanted to do like a video on the Halo series, because it's like so logistically impressive to me just how many features make it in and stuff, and like how many details. Like, you don't appreciate the details of games until you've actually fucking made some games, you know? How hard that is to like get into a project, you know? And yeah, just from that perspective, I'm very cautious still about Ghost Story Tokyo. I want it to be good. I would love for it to be very good. But I think there's a lot of red flags with it. Again, like I said, like Evil Within 2 was trash. The DLC for Evil Within was trash. Like as far as I'm concerned, Tango made one good game, Evil Within, and even that is like very unpolished, very janky. And you know, from one of the most legendary directors of all time, right? So of course it's good. And then yeah, just the thing with the director, and I don't know, man. Like, it's worrying. It's worrying. But again, like I said, I want it to be good. I want to know more about it. I want to know what this game is. Yeah. Oh, as it so happens, the next game on my list is also Halo Infinite. I just mentioned Halo, right? And like, it's another first-person game. You know, the more I thought about it, the more I thought, like an open-world Halo sounds like the best game ever to me. If it actually capitalizes on the potential of that idea, like, it has so much insane potential, this concept and the vibe of this game. I mean, I need to replay 4 and 5. I really did not like them when I played them. But it does seem like 343, you know, they really are taking the feedback seriously, and clearly they care about Halo as a franchise. Clearly they have sort of ideas for what they want the franchise to be, right? And I like that they're taking it back so specifically to Halo 1 with this game, because without taking too much away from my Halo video, I really do feel like the Halo 1 still is the best one, now that I've replayed it. Just like the level of design provided so many opportunities for the AI and all the systems to do really interesting things and really dynamic things. Halo is like one of the most dynamic fucking games ever. And I think that was kind of lost a little bit, at least, with 4 and 5. I might even say it was lost a lot. I don't know. Like, I can't really speak on it because I haven't played them so long, right? But like, the AI seemed very docile to me, and I just hated the weapons. The weapons felt very automated, not very deliberate. Yeah, but like, even from that first demo that they showed for Halo Infinite, I could already see just how many positive steps back it was taking to the old days, right? Just like the way you saw Master Chief sort of engage the enemies, the way the enemies were moving, it felt a lot more deliberate. It felt a lot more, I don't know, like conscious and like dynamic, just in terms of the pacing, the way the enemies, even when you shoot them, the way they move, the way they throw grenades. It's all these really subtle details that I think are much of the reason why people take Halo for granted, you know? Like, I think those details, a lot of them get lost. A lot of people don't pick them up. But it's really what makes Halo special, and I'm really hoping that Infinite pulls that off while also really expanding the scope and like just the idea of having this huge ass map that I run around on my Warthog and like I can get into crazy fucking chaotic fights. Like, it definitely calls to mind Phantom Pain for me as well. Like, I love the fact in Phantom Pain that it is a huge fucking world, and I can just go into random bases and just crazy shit happens, and I can use different equipment, I can pick up stuff on the field and do things with it. Even just, like, it makes so much sense for Halo, you know? Like, enemies can drop random weapons, and like, maybe I get something that's like super powerful, that's like, that I don't get very regularly. I will say, I still think the weapons look a little bit too Call of Duty in that first demo they showed, right? Like, that was one big weakness as well to me with 343, that there's like just so many fucking machine rifles and automated guns and all this shit that where you kind of just, you know, hold the cursor over the enemy, hold the trigger, and then wait for the health bar to go down. I think that is just not Halo. Halo is like very much about deliberate shots, deliberate attacks. And that's maybe one worrying aspect. The sprinting is like, I think the most of the effects, the negative effects of sprinting, are in multiplayer than single player. I need to replay Reach as well and like see how they did it in that game. I mean, in that game it had cooldown and stuff as well. I don't know. But like, to me, like, the sprinting wouldn't be the end of the world. Even the weapons wouldn't be like the end of the world. It still looks very Halo, and I like the grappling hook. I liked that. I saw some leaks that sort of claimed, yeah, the grappling hook is actually so insane that the developers are like expecting a lot of sort of Breath of the Wild style emergent gameplay, where people are just gonna clip it and meme it and share all the stuff, like all the crazy shit that the engine can do. That sounds very exciting to me. Again, like, sandbox, open world, systemic shit, like things like Warthogs just flying through the air and like just grenades having dynamic impact on the environment. Like, all this shit was already in Halo all along, and now they're just kind of expanding the scope. And I think like, that's why I'm glad that they delayed it, you know? Like, they have one chance to get this right, I think, this kind of concept, and I hope they do. I hope they do get it right. Yeah. Do you have anything else to say on it? I think graphically it looks nice. I don't mind the art style. I do get the point that it looks a little bit flat, but like, I don't really care. But like, I will say, I think I would prefer for the game to be next-gen exclusive. I know I'm gonna buy a new Xbox for this game. I'm not gonna play this on my One X. Like, had it been last year, I would have played it on the One X. But now that they've delayed it, I'm like, okay, I have time to get a Series X. And that will be the game that will compel me to upgrade. Yeah. But I still think, you know, just how much the players sort of view. It feels like the world still like has a lot of pockets where it needs to load and shit, right? And I think that's a pretty bad call, because like the design of the game could be so fucking more liberated if they just design it for the series consoles with the SSD and all that, and the new CPUs. And if it were just one game, alright, but like this is supposed to be a living game where they continually update it, right? That was the whole idea behind it. So if it has to also be on the old fucking ass Xbox, and they continually update it, and like all those updates are also going to be held back probably, you know? I just think releasing it on the Xbox One is a really bad call, and I hope maybe they will reverse that decision. I don't know. Like, I mean, clearly they made a new engine for this game, right? So clearly they should be able to take advantage of the tech without just fundamentally overhauling the entire game, you know? Yeah. I want to look up right now, like I want to go on Google and say like Xbox One version canceled or something. Maybe there's like rumors and sort of that vein. I think that would fill me with a lot more confidence as well. They got one guy from Bungie, like who used to be at Bungie, back now in the director's chair to like sort of get the project shipped, you know, to get it out. And he said in a recent blog post that he played through the whole campaign. So the campaign is done. I guess they're just really polishing the fuck out of everything. And like, I mean, most of the criticism was for the visuals, right? Like, I'm assuming the game would have looked this way had it come out on its original date. You know, looked the way that it did in the demo. I'm assuming they wouldn't have had time to like overhaul that. I'm really wondering, like, I just really want to know about the logistics of this delay, because clearly they were on track to release it. They had all the fucking marketing ready, they had all the merchandise ready already. Like that, like you don't usually see delays like that. That is very rare. So I really want to know, like, what state was the game in? How ready were they? How polished was it? How ready was the multiplayer? I don't know. Yeah, I just really want to know what they're doing with all the extra time, and hope the final product lives up to my expectations. I know, like, I feel like I'm the only person who's like still looking forward to this game and like excited about it, but I don't know. Just like hearing the music and fucking seeing just Master Chief on a green, like, lush field, that is just like, it still does things to me. It still does things for me. Next one on the list is a big if. There's no fucking guarantee that this one's gonna come out. There's no indication that this one's gonna come out this year at all. You probably know the one I'm talking about. It's Zelda, of course. It's the Breath of the Wild sequel. I mean, I've realized over the last 3 years, oh god, it's 4 years, it's close to 4 years. Oh, I'm so old. I'm so fucking old, dude. It's like crazy how long ago that is. What the fuck, dude? Wait a minute. I was 22 when Breath of the Wild came out. What the fuck? Oh, and I'm 26 now. What am I doing with my life? Oh, that is so sad. That is so fucking sad. Jesus Christ. I'm having actually like crisis right now. Oh god. Anyway, I've realized over this relatively long period of time, the Breath of the Wild is like easily a top 5 game for me. I used to feel Majora's Mask was my favorite Zelda, and I've discussed a couple times, like there were elements about Breath of the Wild that disappointed me a little bit at the time. Not the kind of shit that people usually say about it. The two things it was mainly was I felt like the game. I had the impression that the game really sold itself as like this post-apocalypse, right? And obviously it recalled Zelda 1 a lot, right? Very specifically. And that ended up not really being accurate. This is not a game where people are like hiding in caves and shit, and where there's not a single soul around, and it's this super dark, fucked up place. It really does feel more like a traditional Zelda, where, yeah, you just have a huge world, and it's kind of dangerous, but there's, like, towns, and there's civilization, and it's pretty developed, and it's fine, right? People are sort of getting by. Like, the towns in this game are so cool, but at the time when it came out, I was like, yeah, I'd rather have no towns. I would rather have this be, like, a completely dead, empty, mysterious world. That's kind of what I wanted, right? The other thing was that I feel like, I wish there had just been, sort of more complex designed kind of structures. The game I'm thinking about a lot is Dragon's Dogma, right? Dragon's Dogma, the world is pretty small, but it's cool that it has all these like ruins and caves and shit, and that have a lot of design put into them, right? And they don't just follow like generic templates. Every cave, every structure, every castle, whatever is unique. And I kind of wanted that more from Breath of the Wild. There's a little bit of that. But a lot of it obviously is the shrines and the dungeons. And I think with the dungeons especially, my biggest disappointment was that the fact that they were so tied into the story. You can't just find a dungeon and then enter it. That's what I really wanted. Like, that was one of the main things that I wanted from this game. This feeling of, like, Zelda 1, even Zelda 3 to some extent, where you don't have to do like this long quest leading up to the dungeon very linearly. Instead, you just find it in the world and you just step into a random hole. It's like, what the fuck? It's the whole crazy new place. That's the sensation that I wanted. That's the sensation that I didn't really get with Breath of the Wild. And like, I mean, with the shrines, I understand it, right? They had to have some kind of overarching system where the shrines are relatively easy to find. Where like every player can find a good amount of shrines as they progress normally through the game. That was clearly the goal. That was clearly why they had this. Again, this kind of generic template that could be used at any point of the game, right? That made a lot of sense. That's very smart design, but obviously it's not as exciting as like having all these unique structures. And I feel like maybe a cool way to do it. I was like really thinking about it. What if maybe you had like sort of meteorites or something, like meteorites that came out from the sky and they landed in certain locations in the world, and you can see it from afar. There's a light coming out of it, and you like every time you get one of those meteorites, it's like the spirit orbs. It's a similar progression system. But instead of just a generic shrine, you get like something unique. You get some kind of structure. You get some kind of ruins. And then even then, they could still reuse assets, right? Maybe the meteorite does something to like the environment around it that could be reused very easily. That's probably how I would have done it. But also, I do understand if it's like logistically not possible, and like obviously it was a Wii U game, so what they could do in terms of the loading and the RAM was a little bit limited. I get it, but like the more I thought about it, the more I realized, yeah, but this game is still fucking insane, and like I think even the things that didn't suit my taste perfectly when it came out, I'm way more okay with them now, and I can accept the game for what it is. And like, they're not like having towns is not a flaw, right? It's just, it's not exactly what I wanted, and now I'm like, yeah, towns are cool. I like towns. Yeah. Now, what I'm really hoping for with the sequel is that like, everybody's making this comparison, right? Oh, if Breath of the Wild is Ocarina, then this one should be Majora's Mask, right? Where it's using the foundation of the game to do something new, and to do something that is like so radically different that even if it's like kind of an improvement in some ways, you can't really directly compare the two games to the point where it doesn't really make Breath of the Wild obsolete, right? I think that is the best case scenario. I don't want the next Zelda to make Breath of the Wild obsolete. I want it to be so its own thing that the two games stand on their own. And like, just the idea of like maybe having, I mean, the trailer does strongly suggest that it takes place in Hyrule again, which is interesting, right? We haven't really had that you have two games in a row that are just Hyrule, right? Or like the same version of Hyrule even. We only see Zelda and Link in this underground sort of cave system in the trailer. And that has to be somewhat deliberate, right? That the fact that they focus on that. Again, that's also something that we didn't see in Breath of the Wild at all. We didn't see those kinds of structures at all in that game. So I'm hoping that it's not even the same map. Maybe it is like a flipped version of Hyrule, it's a reverse version, it's an underground version, something like that. And then somehow they find ways to use the mechanics again. And obviously, I want it to be a way darker, lonelier ass game. Fuck, man. Obviously, like, I always say to people that, you know, be cautious with what you're excited for. Don't get so hyped on like purely vibes and aesthetics and shit. With Zelda, I'm very specifically hyped on the fact that like what they showed in the context of what the previous game was. That idea is super tantalizing to me. And fuck, man, I hope it comes out this year. That'd be so fucking good. I mean, it's Zelda's fucking anniversary as well. They have to have something for Zelda, right, this year. I think just a re-release of all the Zelda ports, right, on the Switch would be nice, especially the 3DS ones, to have those on a TV. Though, I do want to get, like, Ocarina of Time, I would definitely play on the Switch if they did it. I think Majora's Mask 3D just has too many flaws, for me to want to play it on the Switch if they were to re-release it, right? I think I just want to build a PC now and then play it on an emulator, you know, if I want to play it on TV. Or just, you know, stick with the N64 version. Because, like, for those who don't know, you can patch Majora's Mask 3D now to basically restore parity with the N64 version. So, like, remove all the weird, kind of tacky changes. I need to try that, but like I've been hesitant to try because I would like to play the game on a TV, you know. And that's just not really easily possible with 3DS games, and like emulator has not really been working for me at all on my laptop. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, if I once I build my PC, I'm gonna do that. But yeah, Breath of the Wild again. I want to stress, like, now it's definitely my favorite Zelda. Just the looseness and the systemic nature of the gameplay, and just how freeing and like, what's the word? I'm looking for a word. I don't know, like the opposite of rigid, right? I mean, I already said loose. Zelda games used to feel very rigid, and Breath of the Wild was just so liberating with its mechanics. And again, the structure and just the whole vibe of the game, it's just so fucking perfect and complete Kino. And if they manage to top that somehow and match my taste even better, holy fucking shit. Like, Yeah. Let's move on. This game I don't have anything to say about really. I just put it on the list sort of for the sake of having it to like give it a shout out. Ys 9. I've only played the first Ys game, but I've been thinking more and more about continuing my my journey with the series lately, because I was like, yeah, you know, I'm just gonna play them on the PSP. I'm not gonna bother with the PC versions very much. I should probably play Ys 6 on PC because the PSP version is very bad. But yeah, I will say I played the demo for this a little bit, and like I wasn't too impressed with it. But I do get the distinct sense that yeah, Ys is probably like one of those series where you kind of have to be in for the whole experience, and then you kind of get it. I will also say the gameplay style, the engine that they've been using since Ys 7, is not really my favorite. I do really prefer the sort of isometric kind of Ys 6, Ys Falgana, Ys Origin style. Even though I haven't really played those games, I messed with them a little bit, but I like the way those games feel a lot. And I don't know, like something about the newer games feels a little bit rigid, a little bit just over animated and stuff. I don't know. But like I'm willing to give it a shot. It's just been on my mind, you know. I've been thinking about playing Ys. I'll probably move on with Ys 2 soon. Yeah. Next game on my list is Wrath: Aeon of Ruin. It's a first-person shooter built on the Quake 1 engine. And you know, it's not just the surface level thing, it's taking a lot from Quake 1, just the general feel of it. And that is super fucking cool, because Quake 1 is like one of the best feeling, loosest kind of shooters. Obviously, like, Quake speedruns and rocket jumps and all this shit are super legendary. But just the general pacing and flow of Quake, I feel like, is almost unmatched. I really prefer it even over classic Doom. And honestly, yeah, I'm thinking about it like something like... I kind of hope that they reboot Quake, honestly, but like, don't do it like Doom 2016, you know? Like, do it a little bit different, like, stay a little bit truer to the original. I guess, like, something like Quake was more what I wanted from the newer Doom games. Something that doesn't feel so, again, kind of over-animated, and, I like that there's no hard distinction between combat and exploration in these older id Software games, you know. And that's, yeah, just the fact of getting a new game in that sort of legacy, I think is really cool. With Wrath, just the trailers and the gameplay that I saw looked very appealing to me. The guns, just generally the weapons. There's a lot of weird weapons in this game that feel like they have a lot of punch. But also apparently this game is like a little bit open-ended and a little bit non-linear. It has Metroidvania elements. I think that's cool, and I like the horror aesthetic. Yeah, it's already in early access. But obviously I'm not a PC guy, right? Like, I'm kind of waiting for the console port, and also just waiting for the game to be done. I should play Ultra Kill as well. I mean, I hear Ultra Kill early access is very substantial and like worth playing. But yeah, with this one, I think I'm gonna wait a little bit, maybe at least until I build my PC. But yeah. Next game on the list, R-Type Final 2. It's crazy that it's real. It looked like an April Fool's joke or something when they first announced it, and I guess that was kind of part of the point. R-Type Final, generally I'm not like a huge shmup guy, but I've always had a soft spot for R-Type. I think something about the little, what the fuck is it called again? It had like a name. The little weird ball that you get with in the R-Type games that you can like, wait, I want to look it up. This is like really bothering me. R-Type, ball, force. The force unit. That's what it's called, yeah. It's like this little ball that you can attach to either the front or the back of your ship, but then you can also fire it off, and then it will sort of fly through the arena, not like a pinball, but like, you know, it will propel itself forward kind of on its own. And the force unit itself can have projectiles that it shoots, right? And then also, well, that's a bad explanation. The force unit itself can act as a projectile, right, and destroy enemies, but then also has little cannons on it that can fire at the same time as you. And then just dynamically playing around that, and then you can like tell, for example, the force units to come back your way, and then decide, okay, do I want to attach it on the front or the back? I think that's very cool, and that gives the game a pretty dynamic edge, especially with the Gradius-like upgrade system, where depending on when you upgrade, you get different attributes either for your ship or the force unit. Always thought that gameplay style was very interesting. You could even like, yeah, if you attach the force unit to the front, and then just touch an enemy with the nose of your ship, you will kill the enemy, right? But then obviously that is a little bit risky. And the game finds ways to not make you rely on that. I think that's very cool. And specifically R-Type Final, obviously it wasn't the name, right? It was R-Type Final. It was supposed to be the conclusion of the series, and just the way the series is weird, because like it deals a lot with like body horror and just this like thematic idea of the aliens invading, and like just the death of the universe and all this weird shit. Like, it's very esoteric, and it very much is conveyed as you're playing it. There's no hard lore or text for you to read in those games. And Final, like, the series started getting a little bit more abstract with R-Type Delta on the PS1, but then Final is the game where it gets really fucking weird, where just the aesthetics of some of the stages are very interesting and very abstract. I don't want to spoil it, but there's some cool shit in that game, and I definitely recommend playing it. It's definitely the most experiential kind of shmup, right? And I really like it for that, on top of having just interesting mechanics. And that's why R-Type Final 2 coming out is really cool. Like, just getting another one of those. Obviously, like, I guess maybe it takes away a little bit from the finality of R-Type Final, but like, you don't really get this kind of game enough. And I think, is it developed by Irem even? Wait, does Irem still exist? I don't really know. Wait, I didn't do enough research. I just saw it in the Wikipedia list and I was like, oh, fuck. I forgot about that. R-Type Final 2. Granzella. What the fuck is Granzella? It's a Japanese video game developer based in Ishikawa, Japan. The company is formed from former Irem staff and engaged in planning, production, and sales of console games. So yeah, Irem is dead, but like, oh yeah, they also did Disaster Part 4, okay. Makes sense. Interesting. Irem is a Japanese video game console developer and publisher. Number of employees, 200. Yeah, as a result of the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, Irem cancelled the majority of its remaining video game projects, including Zetsai Zetsume, Toshi 4, Summer Memories, so that's Disaster Report. Irem refocused to become primarily a slot machine and pachinko developer. Ah. Okay. Damn. Interesting. Weird. And like, yeah, it's weird that like those franchises then went over to Granzella. Granzella acquired IP and distribution rights of the Disaster Report series in all areas of the world, including future titles from Irem. Okay. Yeah, it's weird that like the Disaster Report 4 was done on PS3, but then they didn't release it because like, of course it would have been like insensitive with the earthquake and all that. Yeah. I hear that game is not very good, though. That's the thing, like, the weird thing about Disaster, like, I think R-Type actually is, like, a super serious, like, fucking mature, melancholic, somber franchise. Even though it looks like a dumb shooter. Whereas Disaster Report, from outside, you feel like, oh, fuck, it's like post-apocalypse, I need to survive and shit. But then you see it, you actually look at the game, it's super goofy. Yeah, I mean, I know some people really swear by those games. I really need to try those at some point. Yeah. But yeah, R-Type Final 2, if it's not on your radar, definitely stay locked on that. Okay, 3 more games. Got the Nier remake. I think it's very interesting. Obviously, this is our first time getting the brother Nier, like the way the game kind of was intended. For those who don't know, yeah, Nier, the original Nier, 2010 game by Yoko Taro and Cavia, published by Square Enix. I mean, y'all have played Nier Automata, right? You know Nier Automata, right? You know that game. Original Nier had 2 versions in Japan. One for the 360 where you play as an old man. That's the one we got in the West, also on the PS3, right? But in Japan it was 360 exclusive. And then the PS3 version was you play as a B shonen fucking anime boy. And the way it sort of made sense is that you have this character, Yorna, I think was her name. And when you're the old guy, you're her dad, and when you're the B shonen, you're her brother, right? And a lot of the subtext in the game made a lot more sense with the brother character. That's how the game kind of was originally written. But they thought, for the West, we need like an old fucking grumpy hero, right? To appeal to the Call of Duty bros. It's so stupid. Like, just that thinking, you don't really get that kind of approach to games in the West, you know? It's so weird. And I really, honestly, I think, I don't know, actually maybe, like, I do think it helped the reputation of the game a little bit. It made the game feel weirder to us. Yeah, that you just play as this big old guy. For like a JRPG, right? I think the game actually, yeah, the more I think about it, yeah, the game actually was an easier sell in the West, you know? Like, it felt more unique. Just because of that. I'm a big fan of the original Nier. I do think, like, it is a janky game. Like, it's not, the combat is, like, nothing special at all, but it's not, like, irritating to play. I'm not sure how much I would enjoy it, sort of, if I played it now. But I still think it's very interesting. Does a lot with the interactivity, and I think the vibe of the world and the feeling of it, and even like aesthetically, I think it's a very strangely beautiful game, even though it's like, it was kind of lambasted at the time for its visuals because it looks like I remember there was this German website, and they listed the game for PS2 and original Xbox when they reviewed it. And like, they said it was like a mistake in their database or something. But obviously it read like a joke because they kept saying, yeah, it looks like a PS2 game, dude. That's like really bad. So, like, personally, I find it aesthetically very beautiful, and like just the color design and the hazy kind of look of it, and the architecture I think is very cool. There's this one like seaside town that's very cool, and like, oh, it's this other town that's like suspended on like bridges and stuff. Really love that shit. And the game, obviously, it was very renowned for its very interesting use of perspective, where the game would shift to a side-scrolling perspective sometimes. It just made the whole game feel weird and like just interesting, and made you connect to the world in an interesting way. And I think I appreciate Automata for a lot of the things it does, but I think a lot of the unique texture of the original Nier was kind of lost, and in favor of a combat system that is more polished and a little bit more freeform, a little bit more creative, but as a game where you like fight people, it was actually worse. It was actually way more fucking tedious, just from that perspective. And it was not especially well designed, I think. And like, I mean, this Nier Automata is like very exemplary of all the issues with recent Platinum titles. But that's a story for another day. Now with this remake, again, we're getting the brother version of Nier in the West. That's cool. I wonder if they're bringing the old voice cast back. I hope so, because obviously it's very iconic, right? I really do expect this remake to have something weird about it. Like, there's probably gonna be something super weird. It's probably gonna be kind of a new game in some ways. I will also say they're hugely upgrading the swordplay and like the combat and just the animations. I do think the fundamentals of the combat, they're not really adding new mechanics and shit. It's just really smoothing out animations and like making everything look and feel better. I think that's exactly the right approach for like a combat system that wasn't anything special. Just upgrading the polish, I think, is a really good idea. And then as long as they don't add more RPG elements and shit, you know, I'm totally cool with that. And they do retain a lot of the aesthetic, a lot of the, again, just the color, feel, the texture, and the what's the word? The tone, you get what I'm saying, right? The world still has that kind of hazy, dreamlike kind of look to it. A lot of the geometry looks very similar to the original, even though it's more modern, right? I saw some shots that I didn't like. I saw some comparison shots where I'm like, I do prefer the original in terms of the colors. But like, that was very early. Maybe they tweaked it since. I still think overall it's gonna be one of the better remakes in that sense. But yeah, I think I would still suggest just playing the original first in case this is like a really weird remake, you know, in case it does like something super subversive with the story. Yeah, if you have that option. Next game on the list, second to last, Oddworld Soulstorm. I haven't played any of the old Oddworld games, but it's a series that I've always been interested in, and I just want to give a shout out to this game really quick because it looks very ambitious. I remember John Linneman from Digital Foundry talking about it a lot, where it's just a billion fucking AI characters running around, and it looks super crazy, and it seems like it's really taking the idea of like saving these Modokans and like commanding them and like just solving puzzles with them, and like it takes that to the farthest fucking possible extreme that the hardware will allow. And that's interesting to me for sure. I always like keep an eye on games that like use the hardware well, you know, the tech that we have available. So yeah, that's all I have to say on that. I guess like on that note, I could maybe talk about Ratchet and Clank a little bit. I really hope that I'm not like a Ratchet fan at all. Like I haven't really finished any of those games. I do kind of want to though. I really hope the SSD, like it was the first actual example of like the SSD being used, right? In a game design kind of sense. And I really commend them for that, and I think the approach that they're taking is interesting. I think flipping between such radically different sort of scenarios and playstyles is something that seems super obvious, but that games just were not able to do before. And I hope that actually adds as much to the game as I'm hoping. But also, like, a lot of shit could go wrong with this game, judging from the trajectory of the series, you know, lately. So yeah. Final game Maybe this is like the big one for some of you. I figure that it is. I know some of my friends are really fucking excited for it. And I'm definitely looking forward to the release of Shin Megami Tensei 5. Yeah. They're very specifically recalling Nocturne aesthetically. It's definitely a huge touching point in the trailers, and like the color design and a lot of the geometry feels very Nocturne-esque, which I don't think is bad. I think Nocturne has a great art style. I think just the actual art in the game, there's like not a lot of it, you know. A lot of it is very repeated and very boring and bland, and like a lot of the environments in Nocturne just don't have style. Like a lot of it is boring fucking caves, and I think people are not very genuine about that, you know, when they talk about this game. It's just, you always see these fucking corny Twitter threads like, oh my god, we really need a HD re-release of Nocturne, like, to really let these environments shine, you know, like, look how good this looks even with like emulation. Oh my god, the lighting is like so artistic, and look at the way bloom is used and the way it plays off of Demi-Fiend's skin, and like with the cell shading. Isn't that fucking crazy? Oh, I feel like there's just a thread like that every other week. And yeah, it's just, I feel like when this fucking stupid remaster comes out, a lot of people will have to start admitting that this game is not Kino. But that's not the topic of this video. Obviously, the series has progressed a lot since, and like a lot of the shit that I don't like with Nocturne obviously has not been in the series for a long time, so that's not something I need to worry about at all. Like, I mean, just like Nocturne's save system and like random skill inheritance and all the stupid fucking bullshit. I guess there's some people who want that stuff back, maybe, but like overall, I think most people are fine with where the series is kind of heading, or has been heading since. The real worrisome thing is Apocalypse, right? SMT4 Apocalypse is my most fucking hated game, and yeah, like, obviously, SMT5 does not look reminiscent of that game in tone. Clearly, they're not aiming for that. I don't have any sort of fears in that regard, I guess. But the game was just so bad on other levels as well, right? I feel like even just beyond the tone, the level design and the pacing was so off the mark that it made SMT4, which is my favorite, right? It's one of my favorite fucking games of all time. It made that game feel like an accident, almost, you know? In SMT4, everything feels so deliberate. The way terminals are placed in the world, just the distances between things, the open-endedness of the game, the exploration, the way the levels are designed, the different environments. It's not really levels, right? It's different locations on the map that you can explore. And Apocalypse just completely shits all over that. It did not fucking understand whatsoever what the appeal of SMT4 was. And I think a lot of that was due to the fact that it was a reskin of SMT4. It used a lot of the same environments and assets, and then just plopped new shit on top that really did not make sense and like was not compelling. Even just like people saying, oh, the dungeons in SMT4 are so bad, like it's like nobody fucking remembers any of those fucking dungeons in Apocalypse, right? Nobody can tell me that that's impressive dungeon design just because it feels more like a dungeon than what you had in SMT4. I think in SMT4, exploring outdoor areas and like office buildings and like having like crawling through vents and seeing like all the weird ways that like certain rooms can connect. That was interesting. That was dungeon design. Those were dungeons, you know? Those were dungeons to me. And Nocturne's dungeons are not good. I will not take responses to this at this time. Like, nobody can tell me. Nocturne, like, legit has just hallways with 5 different doors, and then 4 of those are traps, and 1 is the correct one, right? And it's just trial and error. You know, there's no fucking indication for what the correct door is. How is that good dungeon design? That's like the whole game. That is like how the whole fucking game works in like an abstracted sense. Yeah, I really think the series hit its peak before, and I want more of that. I want more of that kind of style of design. I don't think the writing needs to be exactly like 4. I can see why people take issue with some of the writing choices in SMT4. I think that's fine. But like, just in terms of the game design, the pacing, and the level design, the tone of the game, that's what I want. Yeah, SMT5, like, the trailers don't give us anything to go on, right? We don't know what this game is about. We don't know what the feel of this game is yet. We don't know anything except, like, it's kind of deserty and, like, kind of orange, kind of like Nocturne, right? The art style and all that looks very good, but, again, I guess it's kind of like a Ghostwire Tokyo situation where we just don't know yet. They said early 2021, right? So that's cool. Looking forward to that, yeah. And it's worldwide release as well, damn. Yeah, I hope it's good. I hope it lives up to my expectations. I've been feeling kind of weird about JRPGs, as some of you may know, lately. But like, that's one that I'd be happy to try, and like, I really want to be good, yeah. My throat is fucking sore. I've been recording for 2 hours almost, damn. Yeah, I'm gonna record another thing today on roguelikes. That's hopefully gonna be way shorter. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, let me know, what games are you looking forward to? Do you have maybe harsh disagreements with anything I said? Are you like a Nocturne evangelist, maybe? Let me know in the comments below. Please remember to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. Bye. Ah!